And welcome. This is If My People Bible Reading, part 178. We are in the book of Matthew. Um, this took place and was written and published, available to the readers around 50 to 60 AD. Thus, the placement of Matthew coming after book of Mark. So this is it starts with the record of the genealogy of Yeshua, Messiah, and the son of David, Miriam, the son of Abraham. Matthew means oblation, non-bloody gift to Yahweh. So this right at the beginning points to something's going to happen in the future involving a large oblation area, and it comes forth in the book of Ezekiel and in Revelation, where you see it come to its location of where is this sanctuary and where is this oblation area. And the reason it starts with that, it kind of lets you think while you're reading it. So is there something to this? Well, the book of Matthew really opens this up. So let's get into it. Chapter 1, verse 18, it says, "This is how the birth of Yeshua Messiah came about. His mother Miriam was pledged to be married to Joseph." Now, Yeshua came through the line of Miriam because the line of Joseph was cut short. This has to do with the line during the time of David. There was a sin that occurred that Yahweh would not allow the continuing of that seed to go through to Joseph, and from Joseph, it wasn't his seed anyway, but it was just it actually came through Miriam and Joseph, so both of them. Yeshua was very qualified, even in his bloodline, to be what he was. And this was a promise from the Father from the beginning of time. So every human on the face of the earth, this is where we're going with this, has failed. No human. Nothing through Abraham. Nothing through Adam. An Adam's seed. Adam's seed, even into the Adam's seed through Cain. And even if Cain was not the seed of Adam, but of Eve, still, everybody falls short. So everybody falls short of the glory to enter the kingdom. That's what this is all about. Only Yeshua qualifies. Only one who was sinless. Only one who followed Torah without a single sin. She will give birth to a son, and you to give him the name of Yeshua. Now that's the messenger, the angel, talking to Joseph and Mariam. So it says, because he will save his people from their sins. And as we read through at the end of chapter 1, and then right up into his birth, every time the Bible mentions something, it then mentions, and this is what the name means. Well, salvation, save, has nothing to do with son of Zeus. Okay, his name was Yeshua. There's just, it's not even contestable. Now this takes place, this is a prophecy in the book of Micah. Now you remember reading back to Micah, heard this 100 times or 300 times in Sunday school classes and in church pulpits and so forth. They talk about the remnant and Yeshua coming out of Bethlehem, one of the smallest little towns in the area, the smallest little families in the entire area. That's true. Do you ever read the verses after that? It talks about, and then after all these things occur, it starts to bring up the first advent, which is the birth of Yeshua and his life as on this earth, bringing the priesthood up into his death. And so he died, and the priesthood becomes throughout. Those who hear and obey, the member of the family, are priests in their own family. So there's your priesthood set up. There's that Melchizedek coming into play, but there's something missing, his government. Yeshua did not set up his government. He's coming back in the second advent. So that's what the chapter 5 Micah, if you keep reading, it comes up until the very end to his second return, his second advent, and then everything that occurs after that. So it also mentions that there will be 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. Have you ever heard that before? Have you read that before and never seen that? Read that in Micah 5. Read Micah 5 and then read this. Wow. It kind of lets you know. Micah 5 lays out everything about the end times and the first and second advent. It just kind of opens the door for you now that you understand that. Is chapter 2. After Yeshua was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who's been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." Now, it doesn't say anything about a star in Micah. It just says, where? West of them, because they saw his star from the east. So they went west, and they end up going to the principal capital, Jerusalem. And they went to, since they were Magi, they were people of great authority and answered to their kings and lords in those days, their masters, whoever's in charge of the country. They went to the proper place. They did the right thing. They went to the capital. And what's disturbing is that King Herod heard this, and his people said, oh, his chief priest, they let it know that, he is in Bethlehem in Judea. That's verse 5. They replied, "For this is what the prophet has written." So they do know that, but they don't follow all of Torah. If the chief priest actually knew Torah, they would have known a lot. Well, what do you mean by that, Bruce? Well, okay. I put in a comment here. I'll just read part of it. Our commentators have taken much grief from the majority of Christians because we see that Mariam and Joseph were hearing and obey a Torah. So in the days of presenting Yeshua at the temple in Jerusalem could not conflict with Miriam's cleansing period. So Yeshua was born in Bethlehem, but there was a period of time, 30 to 40 days, where there was a cleansing period and Miriam could not present the child. Joseph could not present the child. Circumcision would not be taking place in the temple until this cleansing period and Miriam, so they could both travel. So Yeshua was circumcised. However, the presenting of the temple, that was later on. So what does that mean? Well, now the period of time of the fall feast, which was 5 or 6 BCE, the fall tabernacles had come and gone. Yeshua was born on or about September 28th, 29th, 5 to 6 BCE. The stars were all aligned in the heavens in the Mazzaroth. When you look at it, we've talked about that. It was Venus and it was Jupiter, and they were under the Virgo, the Virgin, and that's what the Magi saw. They didn't see a special star from heaven. They saw a star, which they followed. They followed those wandering stars, they call them, the planets. That's what the study of the Mazzaroth really, really is. And so they were seeing that, saying, look, something is going to be birthed through the Virgin, and she's a virgin, and it goes up to her right hand, and she's going to be with child. She's going to end up in boots. She's going to end up in the star constellation. And so there's something child going to be born, and let's follow this star, which was Venus. So they went west. Now, they did not go to Bethlehem. Amongst anything and everything you've learned in Sunday school, wrong, 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 wrong. Simply read the Word. And follow Torah. You've got to know Hebrew. You've got to understand just a bit of it to understand, because last time we checked, Jesus was Jewish. He was from Judah. He was of the tribe of Israel. Okay? And so they follow their Torah. And their Torah says you have to be and go through cleansing. You don't want to be unclean. And so they would not go back to Jerusalem. Joseph is just like you and me. He's got to go to work. You can't stay there in a 7 to 8 day festival and then stay there for months to wean a child in a stable, right? They went home. So where did the Magi meet Yeshua? Well, it gives you the answer. Where did they meet him? Um, let's go to verse 11. On coming to house, the house, it says the house. If you live in a home and you say, hey, come on over to my house, come on over to the house, you don't have to tell anyone that you know that's a friend of yours that wants to visit where you are. You're at the house. So the Magi went to the house. They went to their home in Nazareth, which was not even close to Bethlehem. So as we continue reading on, when this plot and plan, I apologize. I don't know who that was, and I don't answer strange phone calls. So when this happens, the plot and plan to kill Yeshua, they went down and killed a lot of babies. And as you pay attention to it, they killed them up to 2 years old, because it says when Herod asked them exact date and time, he figured out. So that lets you know once again, that the birth of Yeshua, he was older than a couple weeks old, or 3 weeks old, or 2 weeks old, or 1 week old. He could have been a month or two old by the time they traveled from the east to the west and went through all the rigmarole to find out. And then when they left, they didn't follow the Bethlehem story. It says, and read it, they followed the star. They followed Venus. They followed the location of Venus. So that means they continued on to the west. They didn't go south. They would have to turn a hard left and go south if they were going to Bethlehem, right? No, they went to Nazareth. And when they went back in a way so they wouldn't be traced. Well, if you look at Bethlehem, you only have actually two paths that you could cross back over to get to the east. That's the King's Way and so forth. There's only two highways. They didn't have major roads all over the place. But when you're leaving from Nazareth, you can take several routes back, and you wouldn't be even close to the routes that these soldiers, because you knew King Herod's soldiers was looking for those guys because they wanted that child. They wanted to maybe use them for identification purposes. What a perfect ruse. And the fact that the first and second advent is showing here, because the Magi, and by the way, one more time, there wasn't three of them. It wasn't we three kings from Orient are. They were bringing three types of gifts. There could have been a dozen or more. Nobody knows. So we just don't make up numbers and say we three kings of Orient are, because every Christian I know thinks that. And then when they bring the little Magi scenes and they set up these little pagan things in their house at Christmas time, they always have little baby Jesuses sitting there, and then they show the Magi all bowing down outside the cave or whatever that's built that looks like a stable. They weren't there, folks. So once again, that's why we put this Bible together. We're trying to fix 2,000 years of constant and lies. And the reason we say this is I used to do a lot of writing, a lot of policy writing. And I noticed that the great majority of writing in my research going back over 100 years is plagiarized. And you ask a writer to do something, he gives you something that's brilliant. Well, he does it in a very short amount of time, even faster on a computer, and it's because it's plagiarized and it's stolen from other material. Plain and simple. So there's a lot of correction to do. If you're going to be a shepherd and listen to what I'm saying, rightly divide, test everything I say, and I'll see you at the next one. Bless you guys.